Hi, beautiful soul. This is Hanneke from Twin Soul Alchemy. Welcome to this channel on Blossoming on the Twin Flame Journey. Today, we're diving into the energy for twin flames and divine counterparts of the Aries full moon that is happening on October 17th. And it is fiery. As we approach this full moon, you may have noticed something stirring inside. There's this feeling, this urge to take action and to break free from old things, old patterns. And maybe you might have even felt a sense that something bigger is calling you forward. This moon is pushing us towards major breakthroughs, and the energy is fiery, but that is exactly what we need to step fully into our power. This moon is activating our inner warrior, but I'll go into that later in this video. First, let's just do a quick recap or overview on where we are. If you've been following the energy updates or astrological updates, or if you're just sensitive to energies, you can pick them up. You know that we've come through an incredibly intense period. We're emerging from the solar eclipse in Libra on October 2nd. Well, we've gone through an intense eclipse season. And we just passed the 1010 portal, which acts as a bridge where we have moved on from the old and are moving towards new timelines. And the eclipses on the Aries Libra axis that we have gone through recently, they have already set the stage for deep transformation, especially around relationships and personal growth. The solar eclipse in Libra was all about recalibrating our connections and clearing old karma and aligning us more authentically with our soul's mission. And with this full moon in Aries, which is the first regular, quote unquote, full moon after these eclipses, with this full moon in Aries, the themes that were initiated during the eclipse season, they are now coming to a peak and they are pushing us to take decisive action and step into our personal power. And Aries as a sign represents action, individuality, and emotional intensity. And its energy is all about moving forward with courage, but also about handling the emotional triggers that may surface during this time. And this lunation is a powerful time to stand in your truth and at the same time keep healing your wounds, the wounds that have been holding you back. In this episode, I'm going to explore the astrology, how these themes can come up within yourself and in your connection, and how we can harness this energy, how we can make it work for us. This full moon is a supermoon, and that means that the moon is closer to the earth and its effects will be amplified. The closer the moon is, the more intensely that we can feel its energy, and that can trigger emotional responses. Aries energy is all about action, self-expression, and independence. It's a bold, fiery energy that pushes us to move forward decisively and to stand in our personal power. And this can stir up the desire to assert yourself more or confront any dynamics in your connection that have been holding you back. And while Aries can bring about breakthroughs, it can also create challenges, especially if there's unresolved tension in the connection. And you may find that the fiery nature of Aries stirs up emotional outbursts or conflict, but it's through these moments of intensity that real growth and clarity can emerge. And I'll go into that later in this video on how you can deal with that. But one of the most significant aspects of this full moon is its conjunction with Chiron and Aries. Chiron, which is known as the wounded healer, is all about bringing up deep personal wounds, and particularly those related to rejection, abandonment, and self-worth. And yes, those are core themes for the Divine Feminine on the Twin Flame journey. So if that's coming up again, if you're feeling left out, unseen, or misunderstood, know that it is the energy, it's Chiron that is highlighting this again for a deeper healing. And Aries, the goddess of discord, intensifies this energy by adding an element of unresolved conflict or inner strife. And Aries holds the energy of feeling excluded or rejected by the world. And that can stir up unresolved anger or frustration. Old feelings of resentment and anger may come up. The feeling of not being acknowledged or valued. When that's happening, please be careful to not just act upon that, because the purpose is healing and transformation, and the full moon is shining a light on where your connection may need more balance. Not just a connection, but also within you, because it feels so much better to not get triggered all the time by this abandonment wound. The purpose is to go deep and to really ask yourself, why am I feeling left out? Why am I feeling unseen? Why am I feeling rejected or abandoned? And what part of me is doing that to myself? That's what the blind spots are. You're feeling this way because of an inner struggle. So the solution is not in the external world. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to take action, that you don't have to set boundaries. It means that you identify how you can show up for yourself. And then you can act from an empowered state and release the outcome. It's a completely different energy from reacting to a situation out of fear, out of pain. When you're acting from this type of energy that is like, oh, I'll show them or I'll show you, you're not doing this to me anymore, then you'll know that it is from a triggered state, from a fear-based state. And when you identify the way that you reject yourself or abandon yourself, you can offer yourself the possibility to act on your behalf, to speak your truth, and realize that there's nothing else that you can do. The only thing that you can do is to stay true to yourself and to keep talking about that and releasing the outcome. In this time, with this full moon, this is a very important distinction because of the opposition between the moon in Aries and the sun in Libra. It highlights a fundamental tension between personal needs and partnership dynamics, because Aries is all about individuality and self-expression and taking action, and Libra is focused in relationships and harmony and balance. So it's important that when you feel this stirring energy, this fire within you, use it from an empowered state, connect with your heart, and don't use it to start power struggles. Pluto in Capricorn is at the final degrees of the sign, but is still pushing for transformation in the areas of control and power and authority. And combined with Mars in Cancer, which tends to react emotionally and defensively, this planetary alignment creates the potential for old patterns to resurface. And it's a good thing. Whatever is resurfacing is possible to release, but please be aware of this tension between asserting personal power and maintaining harmony and balance. And conflicts may come up and there's no need to repress them, but you can go within, heal first, and then respond rather than react. So as we move through this full moon in Aries, and we are invited to revisit the themes from the solar eclipse of October 2nd and the balance between personal autonomy and union, and with Chiron's influence triggering deep wounds around rejection and self-worth, we are offered a great opportunity for profound healing. But how do we actually go about this healing process? One of my beautiful clients recently had a question around that. And she said, I'm quoting, how exactly do we identify what our individual and possibly collective traumas are? How to identify what exactly needs to be healed? And most importantly, How do we go about transmuting those traumas and facilitate our healing to ensure that we no longer have those triggers and elevate beyond those negative patterns that are constantly playing out in our lives? It's a really good question, so thank you so much. And this brings us to shadow work, which is central on the twin flame journey and an awakening journey. And shadow work is the process of bringing the unconscious parts of ourselves, our hidden wounds, fears, and limiting beliefs into the light of our awareness. And as we align with our soul's essence and we begin to embody our divine light, we naturally illuminate our shadows. And yes, the closer we get to the light, the greater the shadows can seem. It's funny, as I'm recording this, I just saw 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And I was just going to tell you about that was one of the first things that my counterpart told me when we first met. We actually met at a retreat where I was doing a lot of shadow work. And the whole week was filled with situations where I felt left out of the group. And it triggered all of these old wounds about exclusion. And I really didn't show my best side that week. And I was so wrapped up in my own healing process that I hadn't noticed him. And on the final day of the retreat, he said something to me that made me notice him. I don't remember the exact words, but it was about that he could really appreciate that I was truly facing my shadows, and that the stronger we become in embodying our lights, the more visible our shadows become. And he said that that felt confrontational because it reminded him of his own shadows that he was actually running away from. And this whole week, I had felt disconnected from the group because of my own triggered wounds, and suddenly there was this person who saw what was happening. In shadow work, we learn to face the shadows, acknowledge them, and integrate them in our being. And the key to transmuting these traumas is through awareness and acceptance. By confronting what we've been avoiding or repressing, we can release the old patterns that no longer serve us. And this is how we heal and elevate and continue moving forward in our journey. That is how we align more fully with our true divine nature and embody that light, even as it illuminates the deeper shadows within us. That is actually what we have been doing that week, healing and releasing and aligning more with that divine light within us. That's what made it possible for us to recognize each other and ourselves. Because in our twin flame, we have a deep soul recognition through the other person. We truly see our own divine light for the first time. It is as if that other person is putting a spotlight on you, and suddenly you can see everything. The good and the bad, the light and the shadows. We can get these mirrors from other people as well, but in the twin flame connection, it is way more intense because you vibrate at the same soul frequency. And at first, it feels amazing because at first it is the light that you see. But then eventually you start to see the shadows in the mirror. And it can get very painful, especially if you don't realize what you're looking at. Your twin flame truly is showing you what is happening within you on an unconscious level. And I can tell you that it can get really, really dark. It can feel very karmic. That is why a lot of people on this journey have these questions about what is the difference between a twin flame and a karmic and a soulmate. What you experience with your twin flame can feel traumatizing. I can tell you that. I can tell you that sometimes I thought, this is not healing my past wounds or resurfacing old trauma. This is traumatizing me right now. And if you feel that, please do take care of yourself and protect yourself. The purpose of the situations that are happening is so that you learn how to step out of that darkness. Not by pushing it away, not by repressing it, not by ignoring it, but by truly looking at it, by observing it, by accepting it. The purpose is to align with your divine light. But if you're being surrounded by darkness, then just sit with it, experience it. As you observe and experience, it will pass eventually. Be present with yourself, and that's how you prevent it from completely consuming you. Allow thoughts and emotions to come up. If you feel resistance, then allow the resistance a voice. If it's a story, then listen to the story. Embrace what is coming up and let go. And if it's hard to let go, then it can help to imagine two different scenarios. One scenario where you remain stuck, where you hold on to whatever it is that you cannot release because it is too painful to accept the reality. And then imagine another scenario. It's a hypothetical one. What if you could release this? How would you go on? How would your life evolve? Or how would your life have been different if it's a smaller aspect of yourself that is holding on? Because that's what happens sometimes. As grown-ups, we realize, oh, we have to let go, but still we're not able to let go because there is a part of us, a part of our small child that is stuck in the past and is clinging on for dear life. And you can imagine how this little child will grow up if it's able to release whatever it's holding on to right now. And that, visualizing that and feeling that and living that different experience, that can sometimes help to release whatever it is that you're stuck on. If there's a part of you that is feeling abandoned, then you can go within that memory. If you have a conscious memory of being abandoned, go within that memory and see yourself as that small child, and see how the pain and the hurt of this situation will impact you the rest of your life if you hang on to it. And then imagine a situation where that small child is able to let go of that pain and is able to grow up in acceptance of what has happened. What if the child can accept that he or she is abandoned by the adult that they trust the most? What if he or she is truly able to release the idealized image of the mother or father that has abandoned him or her? It takes a lot of courage to do that, but as an adult, looking back onto the situation from your current point of view, you can do that because you have the intelligence and the emotional capacity to do that when you wouldn't have been able to do that as a child. So from this point of view, you look back to your past situation and you imagine yourself as a child being able to let go of that idealized image. You imagine yourself being capable of understanding that it is okay to let that go and to realize that you will be able to move on and have a beautiful life, and you will be able to reconnect with that person that has abandoned you on another level, in another way. When you hold on to an ideal image, then you'll spend your lifetime trying to prove that you are worthy of their love. But you know what? That person has its limitations, and that is why they abandoned you or left you or rejected you. It has nothing to do with you. It is okay to accept that people have flaws, and that might feel very scary. It might feel very unsafe, because that means that it can happen again and again and again. But the thing is, the way that you take back your power completely is when you realize that, yes, that can happen. People can let you down, people can reject you, and you can let yourself down, and you can even reject yourself. But in the end, you will always fall back onto yourself. You will be able to trust yourself. The more that you can find your own balance within turbulent times, the more that you start trusting yourself, and you don't rely on the actions of other people. This process that I'm describing, it's an internal process, and it is through imagination, visualization, feeling. It doesn't have to be based on real life facts. It's about healing those parts of you. It's about aligning those parts of you with the divine light. And it involves forgiveness, forgiveness of others and of yourself as well. It's truly about softening an internal struggle, internal tension. And that is how you change what you see in the mirror. If it's feeling very dark or very karmic, whatever your twin flame is showing you, then it's a huge gift, a huge lesson that will help you become a lot more empowered. But again, don't let anyone abuse you or take advantage of you. Learn the lesson and detach. A twin flame will realign with the higher version of you that you have just created. You'll notice it when you release karma, you release old wounds, and suddenly you're aligned again. You're connected with your heart and you feel that unconditional love again. And then the mirror will start to show you love again. What I'm talking about is a huge transformation on a psychological level, but also on a spiritual and an energetic level. And during the twin flame journey, you will have so many opportunities and situations to learn how to identify your triggers and really dive deep into those shadows to bring them to the light. Identifying triggers simply means to notice your emotions. When you're feeling pain or fear or anger or sadness and it's not going away, then that's a trigger. Emotions and thoughts are the way that we experience life in the third dimension. And as we move along our life, we digest emotions and thoughts. But if we're not able to digest them, if they linger, then that's a good opportunity to go within. So you really don't have to go look for them. They will surface when you're ready for that. And it might be through a conflict in your connection, but it might also be through dreams, or even when you go within and meditate and things keep coming up. It's also these astrological events that are helping us. And you can do this inner work yourself. But sometimes you're so stuck in it that it might help to get some support, an external observer. And that's what I do. I have over a decade of experience in coaching people, and I'm specialized in the twin flame journey because it is my own experience that when you're on this twin flame journey, it is very important that if you get support, that it's from someone who knows what this is all about. Anyway, I'm just saying you're very welcome if you need support. You can book a session through the link in the description box. With all of this shadow work that we've been talking about, we can really benefit from the warrior archetype. And this full moon in Aries, with its fiery energy, is truly activating this warrior archetype within us. The warrior is a force within us that pushes for action, for courage, and for resilience. And Aries, which is ruled by Mars, is the quintessential warrior. And this lunation really invites us to tap into that energy. And these archetypes, like the warrior, they're not just psychological or abstract concepts. They are spiritual energies, and they serve as a roadmap for our spiritual awakening. I've recently created a video exploring how these archetypes guide our evolution. And as we embody these archetypes, we begin to align more deeply with our true selves, and we learn the lessons that they bring us. For the warrior, those lessons are about strength in the face of adversity and knowing when to act, protect, or hold our ground. And the warrior within us evolves through distinct phases on our twin flame journey for the masculine and the feminine energies, and they each have their own unique challenges. For the masculine, the warrior first emerges in the immature hero phase. And at this stage, the masculine energy is focusing on proving strength and overcoming external challenges and seeking validation through action and conquest. However, this phase is often marked by impulsiveness and a desire to control outcomes, and that can create friction in relationships and connections. The immature hero tends to focus on dominating external battles rather than internal growth, and that can create power struggles and misalignments. But as the masculine energy matures, the warrior archetype becomes more refined, and the hero evolves into a balanced warrior who channels his strength with purpose and discipline. And he no longer fights to prove his worth, but to protect and nurture and bring clarity. So it's in this phase in the twin flame journey that the masculine is learning to step in the role of the protector while honoring the balance of the relationship. And he acts with intention rather than reacting out of fear or insecurity. And the masculine energy is within all of us. So you can see how this warrior archetype can truly help us with this energy of the Aries full moon, to be really mindful what you're using this energy for. For the feminine energy, the immature warrior is characterized by emotional defense and reactivity, and she's driven by a fierce desire to protect herself and those that she loves, but often in a way that lacks strategy and discernment. And in this phase, the feminine warrior can be quick to react emotionally, sometimes out of fear of vulnerability. And as she matures, she evolves into the warrior woman, and then she embodies both emotional resilience and strategic clarity. And she no longer acts out of mere reactivity, but she moves with purpose and calm and strength. And this mature feminine warrior knows how to protect herself and others while maintaining emotional balance. And ultimately, both the masculine and feminine energies within us strive to reach the integrated warrior archetype where balance is achieved. And in this phase, the warrior embodies discipline and clarity and emotional resilience. And the masculine and feminine energies no longer struggle for dominance, but they work together, blending action with emotional wisdom. And in this phase on a twin flame journey, you're learning to protect the sacred bond that exists between twin flames, while at the same time honoring the autonomy of both partners. This full moon in Aries calls upon us to activate this integrated warrior, to guide us to face our challenges with courage, but also with wisdom. And as the themes of action and protection and resilience arise, we are asked to confront our inner battles and to come into alignment with our true selves, both as individuals and within the twin flame dynamic. So if we act with discernment, this can create really beautiful breakthroughs. So you can see this full moon as a combination of everything that the recent solar eclipse brought up. And it's a time to clear the emotional debris and to align more fully with your soul's mission. You're being called to rise, to take action, and to step into your warrior energy, but to do so with wisdom and emotional depth and a clear sense of purpose. And if you'd like some extra help in aligning with your soul's purpose, I've created a meditation last week specifically for that purpose, and you can find it in the shop. It also helps you to connect with the archetypes. Just a quick note on the archetypes as the roadmap for her spiritual awakening. There are 3 more: the lover, the king and or queen, and the sage. And I talk about how they provide a roadmap for our awakening along the twin flame journey. So if you're interested in that, check out that video that I made a couple of days ago. And if you'd like to go even deeper, I'm also doing a series of articles on those archetypes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm wishing you a lovely, fiery full moon. Take care. Bye.